Hangtown winning the overall for the second week in a row. Sexton 40th to first. Leads Hangtown with the
What a ride by Chase Sexton. What a ride.
Yeah, welcome to SMX Insider. This is going to be a big one. Previewing the SuperMotocross World Championship. It'll be round 19 and the third Pro Motocross round of the year. Jason Weigandt, Jason Thomas here. But this is what it comes down to, JT. This could be a game changer in the sport as we go into Colorado. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. It's probably a long time since we felt that way in a 450 Pro Motocross race. And you can make the argument either way. This was just a hiccup for Jett Lawrence, and he's going to pick back up where he left off. Or Chase Sexton's epic performance at Hangtown has opened the door for something totally different.
Well, if only we had something to talk about from the weekend. And I think you're exactly right. I'm more wondering where we go from here and what the answers to these questions are versus having a really strong opinion about what this means. And I love that. I love the uncertainty. I love that Chase Sexton has brought this back to the front as far as like, can I be champion in this class? Can I give Jett a run for his money? And then we have to worry about Jett's health. We have to worry about what this does to his confidence level. So for me, everything's back into play. We're right back to wondering who's going to win this championship after coming in thinking that this was easily Jett Lawrence's championship to lose.
Yeah, and I think it'd be easy to say, look, if Jett just doesn't go down at Hangtown, we don't have this conversation. Jett made mistakes at times, JT, in Monster Energy Supercross, and riders like Cooper Webb took advantage. But I don't think we ever left those races watching someone else perform like Sexton did on Saturday, and to me, that's why this feels different. This wasn't just Sexton the opportunist. Sexton was epic by his own merits in that second moto.
Yeah, you're right. It's usually, well, Jett messed up and someone else took advantage of it. This might have been Chase just trying to say, I'm the best guy, regardless of what Jett Lawrence did. And that's really where that question I asked comes in. We don't know the answer to that. And that's probably the most exciting thing to think about going into Thunder Valley this coming weekend.
So as you folks would guess, we're going to go deep into what we saw from Hangtown, from stats from our man, Clinton Fowler. Of course, the 250 class as well, where Hayden Deegan has won 3 of the 4 Pro Motocross motos, but Tom Vial, a great performance at the end of the day, and then a lot of analysis of everything else that went down. So really looking forward to that, as JT says, with a lot to talk about. Time for SMX Facts. We bring in our statistician, Clinton Fowler. Here's the data we want. The unbelievable weekend for Chase Sexton. So let's get into it, man. There's got to be some overwhelmingly not expected off-the-chart style numbers here.
Yeah, I mean, incredible ride by Chase Sexton. 2 things really stick out. One, he was fastest in the last 12 of 17 laps in that second moto. Just absolutely dominated with incredible lap times. And he eliminated a 26-second lead in those 12 laps. Just unheard of performance. JT, he said it on the podium, best race ever.
I don't know what to say. That was the best ride I think of my life. And just thank the team. They put out so much hard work. And these fans are awesome. They're cheering me on all the way around the track. And this one means a lot. This is going to be one of my best races so far.
You look at those last 3 laps in particular. He gained 8.5 seconds on Aaron Plessinger. And I looked at the nuance. With 2 laps to go, he set a 2:04 lap time, and then he dropped it again in the last lap with a 2:02. Absolutely incredible. How difficult is it to do that, JT?
Yeah, I mean, he was in the zone, as James Stewart mentioned several times on the show. And, you know, it was interesting that last couple of laps. And I think he got to second. He knew he had the overall win wrapped up. And AP had a pretty big gap still. And I think that second to the last lap, he checked up a little bit. Like, okay, I'm just going to bring this thing home. But it's somewhere along the line, he saw that AP was under duress and not able to turn in the laps he really wanted to. So I think he wicked it back up. I think he sensed an opportunity to go win this moto and really kind of just blow Hangtown, blow the roof off the place, really. And he went for it. He dropped back down to that 2:02, which when you look at the lap times across the board, he was several seconds, if not 10 seconds faster than most of the field on that last lap. And just a heroic ride. And to have that much charge that late in the moto, I think it speaks to where his level of fitness really is.
Now, that's all well and good, JT, and that was an epic performance by Sexton. But someone is watching this show right now on the device of their choosing and saying, you idiots, you're going nuts over Sexton. The only reason he did any of this or looked this fast was because Jett Lawrence was hurt. So let's go back to the first round where they were both healthy. What do you see in the data there to say that maybe Sexton is more of a player than we think, and this wasn't just we removed Jett and now Sexton looks like a hero?
It would be a fair statement. Jett was hurt there in Hangtown, but he's been fastest. Sexton's been fastest in 3 of the 4 motos. So it wasn't just Hangtown. He was also fastest in the second moto at Fox Raceway. And he was really good at Fox Raceway. And you compare that to last year. Last year, he was only fastest in 4 total motos through the whole season. So it's clear that Sexton's speed is better than where it was last year. Coming off of the performance, he's going to have confidence. JT, it looks like this should be something he should be able to bring into Thunder Valley.
Well, that is the question for Chase. And I think he needs to take that data, really lean into the fact that he has been the fastest guy through all 4 motos, because I don't believe that it's necessarily been Chase can't ride well enough. He's not the same guy that he was in 2022. I think it's been a confidence thing. I think he's been asking himself the same question week in and week out is, can I actually beat Jett? Can I beat this kid who has come in and taken the sport by storm? And that's never a good place to be. These riders feed off of confidence, and they have to be the most assured person in the room about their own ability. This weekend should have helped Chase with that very question. And as we go to Thunder Valley, as you mentioned, I think he needs to go in saying, listen, I've been the fastest guy through 4. I've only won 2, but guess what? The fastest guy usually wins, and I'm going to take it from here.
We go to the 250 class. I feel like maybe a little bit similar scenario here. Hayden Deegan trying to establish himself, Clinton, as like, I'm the guy in this class. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, Weege, it really impressive change between the Supercross season and Pro Motocross. And on one hand, it's obvious as day, right? He's won 3 of 4 motos. But it's the speed behind those victories that's really impressive. In Supercross, his average fastest lap rank was 7. In Pro Motocross, it's 2nd, and that's a series leading 2nd. He's obviously done great in Supercross, but the speed was somewhat inconsistent. He was fastest in Indy and in Foxborough. In Foxborough, he won. Great dominating performance. But he's also been 6th at a place like Daytona and then finished off the podium. And even at the East-West Showdown in Salt Lake City, where he won, he was still only 4th fastest. To me, looking at the change now from Supercross into Pro Motocross, he's now been fastest or 2nd fastest in all 4 of those motos. An impressive change in just the span of 2 weeks between the 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has more confidence in Pro Motocross, and I think that was gained last summer. You know, you could argue about the skill sets. I think they're pretty close to one another, but he feels like this Pro Motocross Championship is his for him to lose. And right now, outside of a crash, I don't think that anybody could say, yeah, I can beat Deegan, right? Why would they say that? Because he looks like he's been the best guy. He's qualifying really well. You watch him in early laps. He looks like he has the most confidence. So I don't see why he wouldn't continue his winning ways from here.
Okay, that's a look inside the data, but the future is still unknown. Even the best mathematical minds, past performance does not indicate future results. We can only find out this weekend in Colorado. So this all sets up the Thunder Valley National coming up this Saturday as one of the most anticipated races of the year. We've been grinding this out since January, so that's saying a lot. Here's how you can watch it. We have perfect timing for an NBC 2-hour live window into the sport of motocross. So anyone who's a casual fan that you know, tell them to check it out this weekend because they are in for a show. Of course, it all starts with Race Day Live presented by motosport.com. That's our qualifying show. That will start at noon Eastern. Peacock in the United States or the SMX Video Pass will go racing at 3 p.m. Eastern, but 450s will race first this weekend. So 450 Moto 1 is 3 p.m. Eastern. That's Peacock and the SMX Video Pass. You can continue watching on those platforms, but NBC will come in starting at 4 o'clock Eastern time. That'll be 250 Moto 1 and then 450 Moto 2. And then the final 250 Moto, that'll continue on Peacock and SMX Video Pass at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we'll go right into our post-race show, which we've been doing live right through the end of the race as well. So 3 o'clock through 7 o'clock Eastern time is really your live TV window for what should be an epic weekend. Okay, 30-second board. We have to go back to the hot topics from Hangtown, starting with the end of the epic win streak, got the 24-0 for Jett Lawrence as a 450 motocross racer, and it ended almost immediately. This massive crash on a new downhill triple that he made look great in qualifying, JT, but this looked anything but that on the first lap 450 Moto 1.
Yeah, this was a scary moment. And, I think for Jett Lawrence, I hate to use the word reality check, but I think when you get into this winning mode and everything's going your way and you really can't do anything wrong, you start to look at, okay, I don't have any limits anymore. Everything's on the table. I can jump anything. I don't really have any risk. I think this was a little bit of a, hey, you might want to reconsider some of your choices at times. Yes, you can still get hurt. Yes, you can still crash. And that's just a part of racing. We've seen the best in the business over time have this same moment. I think about Jeremy McGrath in 1996 trying jumps that weren't built to be jumped. This is kind of the same thing that Jett Lawrence did. So it'll be very interesting to see him get back on that proverbial horse this coming weekend in Thunder Valley and see how he responds to, it's really the first big crash he's had in pro motocross on a 450. And it was let's just say it, let's call it like it was. It was a horrific day championship wise for Jett Lawrence on Saturday. But the person who benefited and didn't pay the price for anything was Chase Sexton, and he is back. And you could easily say it was just a result of Jett's bad day. I don't think that's what this was. You look at the way Chase rode all day long. You look at the aggression level when he passed Jett in that second moto. There was no hesitation. He literally ran into Jett on his way through the pack. He ran into him and through Jett on his way to the front. He just looked like he was that same guy that we watched in 2022 battle Eli Tomac all the way down to the wire at Fox Raceway in September. So I don't know if this is a start of something. I don't know what happens when these two go head-to-head again, but I can tell you on the podium, standing in that tent right after Moto 2, he looked like a different Chase Sexton. It looked like just all this emotion and a year's worth of just frustration and disappointment had been lifted off his shoulders. So we'll see what that looks like coming up this coming Saturday in Colorado.
Well, driving that home was that epic second moto performance. To go from worst to first, that essentially never happens. We got a nod to Jeffrey Hurlings when he showed up for the Ironman National in 2017, but we're talking like one other example we can come up with in 50 plus years of history, and that was narrative defining. Sexton's tag, unfortunately, for years has been he gets so close, but he makes mistakes in the critical moments. And when I saw him go down at the beginning of the second moto, when the day was completely set up for him to go 1-1 and get all the momentum, I'm like, ooh, this is it again. This is Sexton falling in the most inopportune time. But instead it set up something different. JT, just imagine if he had started well and just casually won the second moto. I don't think the story would be the same. It would just be he went 1-1 because Jett crashed. The last to first is what really sets this all up.
Yeah, and that will be, that will lead into the question that we don't know. What would have happened if Jett was healthy and had been in Moto 2? Now, my personal opinion is Jett wins Moto 2 easily. If you look at historically over Jett's career, that's the most likely outcome of Moto 2 in that scenario, but that's not what happened at all. So can Chase use this as building blocks, confidence-wise? They're still working on that Red Bull KTM, getting him more comfortable on each and every racetrack. That's what it's going to come down to. Does Chase Sexton take this and run with it and turn it into something that can propel him towards this championship? And speaking of championships, that's the story. What happened to the 450 Pro Motocross Championship points? And I think immediately you have to look at the gap between Chase and Jett Lawrence. Now, there are riders in between them, but that's the story. 24 points now separate these two, and it's the first time since Fox Raceway in 2023 that Jett Lawrence was not your points leader. We have not seen a scenario where he's down in points and has to chase anyone. So I ask you, what happens with not only those points, but also the Super Motocross Championship playoff points? What happens from here?
Yeah, and in the Super Motocross points, Chase closes in. Jett had a big lead after Supercross, but the 19 to 20 point range, I think any rider will say that's under one race. So Sexton's definitely in contention for that, to try to be the number one seed going into the playoffs. But as far as the Pro Motocross Championship, I think the points are relatively inconsequential. This is going to be a weekly struggle to see who can get the momentum in the series. You go on a win streak, you can erase 24 points very quickly with a two-moto format. But you got to be able to go on that win streak, to do it. So I think the points are going to work out whoever is the faster rider, whoever is the better rider. And these next couple weeks at least are going to be quite a tussle between those two to try to grab the mantle. And then the points will take care of themselves. But that's why we're so excited going into this weekend in Colorado, because I got to figure both guys are coming in saying, I'm the man now, and I'm going to show you starting this weekend. Both riders have to feel that way. I want to transition to the 250 class here. Kind of that same thing was brewing. We started this 250 motocross leg of SMX with it's wide open. Hunter and Jett Lawrence, the previous champs, are out. Hayden Deegan quickly trying to extinguish any of that wide open talk. And now he's won 3 of the 4 motos. So what do we think, JT? Tom Vialle, great at the end of the day, and we'll get into that. But is Deegan kind of saying, no, this is not wide open?
Well, I think Deegan is the alpha of this class. I do. He's won 3 out of 4 motos. He was leading the other moto that he crashed in. So I think he feels like this is his championship to lose, and you would have a hard time talking him out of this. The variable there is no question, according to the data, and I was watching it with my own 2 eyes, that Tom Vialle was catching Hayden Deegan in Moto 2 at Hangtown. So not so much different from the 450 class. Is Vialle able to take that dynamic where he was catching Deegan, my opinion, pressured him to where Deegan made a big mistake? Vialle goes on to win the moto, and the toughest moto we've seen in this championship to date. Can he take that and run with it? Or does Deegan come out really strong, or maybe someone else? But it's a fluid situation, right? Every moto, there's confidence up for grabs, there's momentum up for grabs, and who is able to capitalize on the opportunity at hand? Because it feels like this is Deegan's championship to lose, but I think Vialle is sitting there with his hand up going, hey, I won the last time out. Like I showed that I'm here to win this championship. And the great part is we can just sit back and watch it and let them tell us the story.
Yeah, it was funny. Even going into Fox Raceway, when we talked to Vialle on press day, he said it's going to take a few rounds before I'm really good. He had arm pump and was not on the pace of the leaders at Fox Raceway. I don't think that bothered him. I think he knew that was not his best self. To hang out with him and Sexton in the pits at the end of the day at Hangtown, the guys didn't even look like they had ridden. They looked so strong, so fresh, so confident, so pumped. Yeah, I think if you ask Vialle, he's like, don't even look into what you saw at Fox Raceway. The second moto at Hangtown, that's the real me, and I got a whole summer of that coming your way. So that class is going to be fun to watch. You look at the 250 points, and I think it's kind of the same deal. You've been in this game a long time, JT. Isn't it really? It's more the mental game, I feel, than the math game this early in the season. Everyone's trying to figure, do they have someone else covered?
Yeah, they're trying to establish the narrative, because you think about what we're talking about at the halfway point, 3/4 of the way through this Pro Motocross Championship. We kind of know what to expect by then. It almost plays out according to the script that's been written through the first several rounds. So they're all trying to position for that, like, hey, I'm the guy. I'm the one you should be worried about. I'm the man to beat. And that's what's so interesting about the early rounds, is that jockeying for position. And remember, Justin Cooper and Hunter Lawrence left this class. They vacated the proverbial top seats, right, where everybody knew it was going to be kind of between those two for podium spots. They're gone. So everybody's trying to fill that void. And I think Hayden Deegan's done a great job of being that guy, saying like, hey, now's my time. You saw me kind of emerge last year. Now's my time. But I don't think that we've heard the last from Tom Vialle or Levi Kitchen, who is going into his best racetrack at Thunder Valley. I think those guys still have some noise to make in this championship.
Yeah, I agree. I think the gnarly, deep, rutted tracks are where Kitchen performs the best. He's got to make a jump. He hasn't been as good as Deegan in all 4 motos, but maybe this weekend we'll see him make that leap. Back to the 450 class. To the victor go the spoils. We talked a lot about Chase Sexton, but on the opposite side of that, it looked like it was going to be a fan-pleasing breakthrough moto win for Aaron Plessinger, and he has it pulled away from him in the last lap. Straight up, he was exhausted. So was everybody else at the end of that moto. It wasn't just him. Everyone was gassed by the end of that on a rough track and a hot day, except Sexton. But man, he was a quarter of a lap away, JT.
Yeah, I think it would be very easy for us to feel sorry for AP, but watching him celebrate and go take pictures with the fans and walk around with that American flag, I don't think he wanted anybody to feel sorry for him. He led almost the entire moto, other than like 3 corners, and I think he really is relishing the fact that he's one of the top 450 guys. He had a great first moto in Fox Raceway. He was right back to that same guy here in Hangtown, and I had this unbelievable window into these guys' inner thoughts. I was watching them with the replay, and we're off camera, right? So, it's not something that they're sharing with the public, but they're going through the last lap together through the highlights leading up to their interview. And it was so interesting to hear Aaron Plessinger tell Sexton, he's like, yeah, we see where you passed me right there, and I don't look like I'm even trying. My calf is completely cramped. I can't extend my leg. I can't do anything. So in the moment, I was thinking, like, why is AP not fighting harder? But yeah, his body was completely giving out there. And I think the data kind of supports that. He just didn't have anything left to fight with, and he knew it. I think Sexton knew it. And yeah, as you said, the victor go the spoils, but it's hard. I mean, almost impossible to not cheer for AP when he's doing well.
Yeah, the fans certainly find it impossible to not cheer. I couldn't figure out on the last lap, were they going nuts because Plessinger they thought was going to win, or because they thought Sexton's going to go from last to first, or maybe both. They were just going insane on that last lap. It was really cool. And what they left behind was more contenders in this 450 class. We talked quite a bit last week about how great Hunter Lawrence was at Fox Raceway, finishing second to his brother Jett. Now Justin Cooper emerging with a better ride at Hangtown. And you never quite know when 450 rookies are in there. You expect them to be good, especially in motocross. We've seen Jett, Ferrandis, you name it, win this title. But I don't think there's any doubts anymore. Hunter Lawrence, Justin Cooper, pencil them in, podiums all summer long. Yeah, these guys are the real deal. They're as advertised. We expected them to come in and be players right away. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win a bunch of races or win the title. I don't think that's necessarily what's expected. But for them to be relevant each and every weekend, leading laps, qualifying well, they're doing that. So I think if you are either of their employers, Yamaha or Honda on the OEM side, you have to be thrilled with what they're doing now and what this leads into for their future possibilities. This is everything you'd want to see from guys making that big jump from the 250 to the 450. And speaking of big jumps, Jett Lawrence tried a big jump, crashed his brains out, now suffering an injury. We don't know what that'll look like going into Thunder Valley, but that's going to be the question on everybody's lips all week is what kind of Jett Lawrence are we going to see in Thunder Valley? Is he going to be back to 100%? Is he at 85%? Is 85% good enough to win for someone who had gone 24-0 prior to that? I don't know. I think they're going to be doing round-the-clock therapy, doing everything they possibly can to get him back to that. But it's an uphill climb, and he's also got to deal with this Chase Sexton character who he just gave a boatload of confidence to. So there's two conflicting narratives that are going to run into each other. A, if I'm Jett Lawrence, I'm not exactly where I want to be physically. And also, B, now the one guy I don't want to get confident again is coming in with the most confidence we've seen in a year and a half. Yeah, and if he was beat up and he just hits a podium at Thunder Valley, hope is not lost. There's still plenty of time to get back into it, but we will see how he plays it. One other topic we want to talk about, our man Kevin Windham, one of the great personalities of the sport and also one of the great racers. It's always been the unfortunate thing for Windham that the amount of titles he should have won didn't happen because he was basically pitted against none other than Ricky Carmichael every single year of his career. But the fans love Windham. He won a lot of races against the best at the highest level. One of the few, JT, that can say, I've beaten Ricky Carmichael and Jeremy McGrath straight up. No doubt. He's done it more than a time or two. And now he is eligible for the AMA Hall of Fame. So we're asking anyone who's a 25-year, or they call it a life member, that has a vote for the AMA Hall. Let's get our man K-Dub in there. This is all disciplines, not just motocross and supercross that are in the hall.
Yeah, K-Dub was incredible. And I don't know that anybody in the history of the sport ever ran into more buzzsaws for championships than Kevin Windham did. You had Jeremy McGrath that started off, then the emergence of Ricky Carmichael, then Chad Reed comes over from Australia, and then you finish it off with James Stewart. So good luck finding a way to win a championship through that gauntlet. But that should never dissuade how amazing that Kevin Windham was on a motorcycle. And I think if you went around and polled any racers from that era about, okay, if this rider was on a certain day, who do we know we're just not going to be able to touch today? Windham would be very near the top of that list. And he should absolutely be a Hall of Famer. No question, first ballot for me.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's not just motocross and supercross when we talk to this Hall of Fame. It's all disciplines of racing and people behind the scenes as well. But we know in the world of supermotocross, Kevin Windham is one of the great personalities and is universally loved. So let's get him on the show. Our big interview. Let's get some fresh perspective on the racing this year and check in with K-Dub. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Our big interview joined by the great Kevin Windham, always insightful, but we haven't talked to him in a while, so we got a lot of ground to cover. But first, we have to talk about the recent news. You're nominated now for the AMA Hall of Fame, so congrats on that. This is starting to come around more and more for motocross, supercross guys. Is this something you've been thinking about for a while, or did this surprise you to even hear about this? Was it on your radar?
Well, it did surprise me a little bit, but thank you for everyone who was involved in the nomination process. Still got keep our fingers crossed that the votes go the way that I hope they do, and to be selected and inducted into the Hall of Fame would be an honor that would be the cake topper for sure. You know, my career was special in a lot of ways. It's special in the fact also that I got a lot of seconds, which doesn't typically get you into the Hall of Fame, but you know, the length of my career, winning against the competitors that I raced against throughout my entire career, the transfers, the fan interactions and stuff, I feel like, and I hope that I made a big enough impact on the sport to take this thing to the finish line. But just the nomination in itself is something I'm so proud of and honored. And like I said, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed, and this would be a great honor. And we'll just see how it turns out here in a couple of months.
I'm sure there are things you would have done differently, right? That's true for everyone. But you have this opportunity. You're training these kids that are up and coming. You know, some of them are hoping to kind of go down the same path that you went down. Are there things that you learned from back then, even the things you're talking about now, those bad days that cost you championships, you feel, are there things that you can now teach these younger kids about the good days and the bad days that they can maybe use along the line? Because that's what in my own racing now, I'm like, man, it was right in front of me. Like, this was a really obvious change I should have made, but at the time I just didn't get it, didn't see it. Now you have the opportunity to help so many people to avoid those pitfalls.
I feel like I do have that ability, and you know, I enjoy working with them. I'm lucky to have you know, facility here at the house, so I'm able to, you know, support my kids as they're actually getting a lot older now, so not too many kids in the house anymore. But having them in my backyard and training them in a way where I can, you know, like, I'm not scared to talk about my faults, and I think that's where a lot of these guys can get their strengths. I've had some amazing successes. I've had you know, some tremendous failures. I coach them on both sides of that. And you know, it's a tough game, and it's not always the best rider who wins. It's, you know, watching the mental game that's being played, you know, with Levi and Deegan right now, and Deegan asking him questions at a post-race press conference, and, you know, trying to dab it up, and, you know, convincing that he's friends, and taking low blows about his fitness and things like that. It is a mentally tough game. You know, every era has a rider that's, you know, kind of pushes those buttons. I think our sport needs that person. I think the competitors need to understand how to you know, adapt and react to those kinds of things. But for me specifically, yeah, I'm not scared to touch on my failures, and I think that's how I can help these up-and-comers be stronger.
I feel like you're one of the few that can kind of have the perspective that Sexton has probably had for the last year, right? He's riding really well. He just can't crack this one piece. And we mentioned the names that you had to try to do it to. And then on your day, you would break through. So what? It's hard for you to say what he's thinking, but what is it like for you on those days where you do break through and you're like, this is what I've been chasing, and now I got it. Now I got it right where I want it. What do you think that feeling is like, or what was it like when you got there?
So for me, you know, it's like you're doing the work, and you believe that you can make it, and you believe that you can win, and you get to the first turn and you're not in that perfect spot, and you don't, or you go into turn 2 and you tip over, or you got a 7th place start and Ricky's out front. For me specifically, talking about RC, it's almost like the whole weekend's done because that perfect thing didn't line up, and now I can't do it. And you know, Ricky was in a position where things didn't have to, I mean, he was just better. So things didn't have to be perfectly aligned for him to get up there and win. And I think you're seeing that with Jett, where things don't have to be perfect. And for some of the other guys, maybe it has to be perfect. Maybe it has to be that start. Maybe it has to be the right laps to throw down the heaters, the heater laps, you know, man, I came in the lappers at the perfect spot and could get through them and whatnot. So for me, it was just like perfection had to be applied, and that when it didn't happen within the first whatever of the first moto, the first certain amount of minutes of the first moto, you're like, oh, okay, well, another second for this weekend, or another third, or hey, I got a podium at least, or whatever. So, I think that was the biggest thing, is just needing everything to be perfect. And Sexton this weekend, other than Goliath had his issues and kind of went down. Sexton didn't have that perfect weekend, but he made it perfect from just hard work and focused and belief. Now, the question that comes into my mind is, was that solely from Jett's position? Was that the one thing that sent him into a whole different realm? I mean, it's something that we've never seen happen. Could that have ride been done had Jett been out front and he said, okay, well, I'm just coming to second? Would he still have had the same ride? And time will tell. We'll see next weekend.
Well, this is awesome, as we expected. We could probably go for hours. So come out to a race. Don't be a stranger. Let's chat again sometime, okay?
Thank you, Weege. I appreciate it.
Okay, as we wrap this show up, one more reminder of how to watch the next round of the Super Motocross World Championship this weekend, Thunder Valley in Colorado, outside of Denver. First, come join us in person. A very underrated round, a really fun place to hang out, and the track usually lends itself to some good racing as well. We'll have qualifying coverage as always. That's Race Day Live, presented by motorsport.com. That'll be at noon Eastern. And then Peacock and SMX Video Pass, as always, is the place to watch that and all the motos live and our post-race show live. And that'll start at 3 o'clock Eastern and continue past 7 o'clock Eastern time. If you want to watch all the racing, 450s will race first. They'll race their first motos and second motos first this weekend. 250s will go second. And we also want to mention again that NBC window. That will be the second 450 moto and the first 250 moto, and that'll happen at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So tell your friends, check it out on NBC for 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, or just watch everything on Peacock or SMX Video Pass. JT, I don't know if we're going to have another race with this level of anticipation and drama coming in maybe all year. This is a fantastic setup, especially to have some coverage on NBC Live.
Yeah, we're timing this thing perfectly. Script writers have been on point all year long, so this doesn't surprise me in the least. But yeah, you can buy a seat, but you're probably only going to need the edge of it.
It's going to be good. Or just come hang out with us in person. We're looking forward to going to Thunder Valley, just about a half hour outside of Denver. Jett versus Chase and everybody else. It's going to be a good one.